Okay, welcome to the podcast, Ryan. How's it going?
Good, man. Good to see you. Good to catch up. Looking forward to chatting through what we have on the docket.
Yeah, a lot to cover. We got the event coming up soon, and I'm going to see you there in person, which will be fun. So that's like today, it's like 14 days away, but if you're listening to this, it's less than that. So I won't spend too much time talking about it. Maybe another podcast we will, but it's newslettermarketingsummit.com. It'll be linked below. The agenda's on the website now. I don't know if you saw the agenda, but all the sessions are there, all the cool stuff we're doing. So you can learn more about it.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I did see the agenda and literally like every single talk. I was like, these are all like can't miss. So, and I'm not just saying that. Like, I'm excited. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I feel like I've just tried to curate people that I look up to and that I've learned from, and I really think every talk there is something super important. Cool. Well, I got something I want to share with you, and I'll just jump into it. So I met this guy recently who is an artist. He has a newsletter. He's a painter, and he's making over 100K a month, sometimes a lot more from his newsletter. So yeah, we started working with him as a client recently. Yeah, so it's like you think artist, okay, and you think 100K a month. Like usually artists are not very financially lucrative unless you're like the top 0.1% or unless you're Banksy or whatever, right? But this guy is like normal artist painting stuff that's like it's great paintings, but he's not like the next Banksy. He's very talented, but like he's not selling at huge galleries and stuff like that. So let me tell you what he does, and I'm not going to say his name because we're working with him, and I didn't ask him about sharing this stuff. But anyways,
Sure. Yeah.
so I think like 2 years ago he starts posting like the process of him doing art on like TikTok and Instagram, and he's pretty good at like short form video. And so he's had some posts go viral. He's got north of 1 million Instagram followers, probably a lot on TikTok too. And it's always like, short 10, 30-second videos of like him actually like the process of him doing a painting and then like revealing the painting. And so he's got that format down pretty well. And obviously his art is very good. And that if you're a horrible painter, this wouldn't work, right? But he's good at that. And then he decided to start building an email list so that he could like try and sell them something, right? So
Hmm.
have you ever heard of mini chat? You can use mini chat on Instagram where it's like comment one word and I'll send you this thing or I'll DM you something, right? You heard of that?
Oh yeah, like I've heard of similar tools on Twitter and LinkedIn or used them. So yeah, familiar with the concept for
Yeah,
sure.
that's kind of like the equivalent for mini chat. So it's like comment, I don't know, art, and I will DM you something. And what he started doing is he made like a wallpaper that you can put on your phone of one of his pieces, and he just uses that as like a lead magnet. So it's like comment this, and I'll send you a lead magnet when you join my email list. And so he grows his email list to like 20, 40,000 people at this point now, just using that strategy. And what he did is at first he would just like send blast to his email list when he was selling something. But then he started writing a weekly newsletter that basically was like a behind the scenes look at how he's creating his art. It's like the next piece he's
Mhm.
working on, the philosophy behind the art, like why he's posting it. And then what really was the unlock here was like obviously one, building the social following, number two, building the email list so you can actually sell them something. Because selling on social is really hard. And then number three, doing a drop strategy. So a lot of people do this for like clothing and merch, but he's doing it for art. So basically, he will do a painting, and then he will have some really high quality prints available of that painting, and then he'll do a drop where you can buy that print for 7 hours to 48 hours, and then it completely goes away, and you can never buy it again. So he never sells that same print again. It's just a one time drop. And so when he's doing these drops, he sells the prints for like between 100 to 200 bucks each, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on the size and stuff. His average order volume is over $200 because people buy multiple prints because like they can only get it once. They want to buy one for like friends, family, multiple rooms, stuff like that. And he's making 100K to 300K per drop, and he's doing a drop probably around every other month of a new print.
Wow.
And so the cool thing about this is like it's real scarcity and urgency, and it just works way better. And like he really only sells it once. And then if you go on eBay, his same prints are selling for like 2 to 3 times more because they're just available once. So it's becoming like almost a collector's item, like a Rolex or a luxury item, something like that. He's doing that with his prints.
I love this. And I love it because it's this funnel and that kind of approach. First of all, it's super marketing savvy. Like obviously, this person had a lot of success on social because uh, they're they're a great artist. It sounds like, but just probably great at marketing too, right? Great at building clips that have hooks and getting people to watch the videos, and then obviously he's using lead magnets and that kind of deal as well. But
Yeah.
this whole I guess funnel of showing the process, getting people invested in the final product just by use of just of showing the process, getting them invested in the final product, and then having this scarcity urgency driven drop. So cool. And I feel like that can be replicated across people can take that funnel and replicate it across really any domain.
Yeah, doesn't have to be art, but there's also many artists who could use this too. And the thing is, like, he is a great artist. I would say he's a smart marketer, but he's not a super sophisticated marketer because this isn't that complicated, right? He's got a simple like weekly newsletter. You know, sometimes it's like 300 words. It's not like super long, complicated newsletter. He's just using one tool, pretty much, actually two tools. So he's using ManyChat for the DMs, so he can send people the link to join the newsletter. He puts a link to join the newsletter in his link in bio. That's the only link there, so it has the highest conversion rate. And then he's just using Beehive for his newsletter, and he's sending weekly emails. And then around a drop, he'll send multiple emails to remind people about the drop before it goes. And actually, the final tool that I didn't mention is Shopify. That's where he actually does the e-commerce transactions, right? And so it's like it's not rocket science. He has a funnel, but it's not a crazy complicated funnel. And when you get the way he delivers the lead magnet, the wallpaper, after you sign up, that wallpaper is just in the welcome email. So
Yeah.
there's not any sophisticated automations to set up. So he's crushing it. And so we started working with him recently. And basically what we're doing is pretty straightforward too. Like he has this massive Instagram following. We're retargeting that following to get them on the newsletter. We're helping a little bit with marketing emails. And so right now he's maybe around 50,000 newsletter subscribers, over a million Instagram followers. We're going to pick up a lot of those followers very quickly and get him to 100K, 150K plus newsletter subscribers. And he's going to start doubling the sales on these sprint drops because he has double the email audience. And email is where the vast majority of his sales come from. Even though he has this massive social audience, the sales are coming from email because he's just able to actually market to people. And you have a very hard time doing that on social.
It's so smart. And yeah, I mean, it's so true too. I mean, I think that's why we've seen the shift in all this interest in newsletters and building an email audience, is just because that's where the selling takes place, right? It's way easier to convert folks via email than it is via a platform like Instagram.
Yeah, it's like I have started just not even bothering to have like call to actions to buy something on social. It's just all about getting to my email list. That's all
Yeah.
I care about on social. And then in the email list, then I can do the call to actions. Like it's really worthless to try and get someone to buy something from social because like the post just never gets the same reach because it's a call to action. It doesn't have the same retention or anything like that. So get people on the email list, sell them on email, focus on converting them from social. But that's it.
That's so cool. And I love the idea of just retargeting the audience and using that as kind of the strategy for the paid ads. Because I was curious, I was like, so are you driving folks to, are you driving like art lovers to their his newsletter? Is it kind of like a broader audience? But it sounds like, at least for the time being, you're focused pretty much just on retargeting.
Yeah. And his audience is like just kind of normal folks. Like they just love what he's doing. They love his philosophy and message. It's not like super fancy art collectors or anything like that. I'm sure there's some in there too. But he's crushing it. Do you have something else you want to like another topic?
Yeah. So I guess like I think it's a potentially like nuanced topic, or maybe not as exciting. But I will say, like, through this approach, or just by paying attention to this one thing, one of our partners made like $750,000, or raised $750,000 from sending out one email. And so essentially, I'll set the stage a little bit. We're working with this partner. They have basically like a course for folks that want to learn how to make a certain type of investment, specifically like investing in like businesses and stuff like that. They so I don't want to get too specific, but they're growing through meta ads. We're creating their newsletter for them. The newsletter is very educational, very like nurture, kind of teaching them, showing them that this person knows what they're talking about when it comes to making this type of investment. They're typically investments that are like $50,000 or more. Typically on the higher end of that, I'd say like the minimum is like a $50,000 investment. So You have folks that are being driven cold from meta ads to this newsletter where they're being nurtured. Where kind of I have been blown away by just the effectiveness of this funnel is in just having, and it's so simple, but it's so important, is just having a survey like that collects zero party data about everybody that's coming through, especially if you're running paid growth, right, and investing a lot there. A lot of folks miss this step, I think, or don't pay enough attention, or don't kind of put the effort into building segmentation around people's responses to surveys like this. But really, at a very high level, what it is they come in through a meta ad, they enter their email. Great, now you have their email. The very next step is a survey that asks them all of these different questions about whether or not they've made this kind of investment before, if they'd be interested in getting off or like deals that this person is organizing, whether or not they'd be interested in receiving information about those, what kind of capital they could invest in a deal like this. And so we're building this really comprehensive profile of every single person that comes into this newsletter. And it's great for a few reasons. So first of all, we just know a lot about the audience. We know a lot about the folks that are coming through their meta ads campaigns. They can adjust their meta ads campaigns based on how well it fits their ICP. Two, if and when, and they've just started to do this now, they've been running mostly their own products and services as kind of the main featured spot or placement. But it's going to make sourcing sponsorships and sourcing high CPM sponsorships so much easier for them, because they can point towards all of these pie charts that Beehive gives you via their survey, their native survey function, and just say, look, like 50% of the folks on this list said that they'd be willing to invest X or more, and then 25% said they'd be willing to invest like up to like 100,000 or more or something like that. So it just shows the demographics of the audience and gives potential sponsors a lot more confidence. And third, and I think this is the coolest piece of this, we can create dynamic segments in Beehive, and I'm sure in Kit as well, based on the responses to this survey. So their list has grown to around 50,000 subscribers via the paid growth through meta ads. Only about 5,000 of those, so like 10% of the list, said they'd be willing to invest 50,000 or more, right? Which is still a lot. That's like 5,000 people that said, hey, I'm interested in you sending me a deal, and I would be interested in investing $50,000 or more on that deal. He sent out one blast just with a deal that he was trying to raise funding for to this list, and he was able to raise over $750,000 for this deal.
Boom. With 5,000 people.
With 5,000 to a send of 5,000 people, and it's just like, man, strong. Obviously, we know the power of newsletters and the power of growing an email list, but just such a great tangible example of what happens when you invest in a list, nurture them over time, collect zero party data, and are smart with how you segment and send to these folks. And it's just like it since then, I put so much emphasis on let's get a really robust survey in place. And let's make sure, one, that if folks aren't answering it, we have a secondary automation that maybe incentivizes them to fill out the survey information, right? So say only like 70% of folks that come through your funnel are filling out the questions on the survey. To the other 30%, you just have an automated blast that goes out to them maybe after a few days on the list and says, hey, notice you haven't filled out your survey information yet. We'd like to and you can incentivize it with like a digital asset or something. If you fill it out now, we'll send you like our top 10 things to look out for when making this type of investment.
Like a lead magnet.
Exactly, like a lead magnet to incentivize it. But it's just so important. And I just think it's maybe under discussed. So
it is under discussed a lot. And this, I think 95% of people with a newsletter should have some type of survey like this. I mean, especially if you're on the B2B or financial side, it's 100% should have it. Some people are a little bit more B2C, may not need it as much. But yeah, this has been super helpful to me. Like, I have one, it could probably be better, and I don't utilize it to its max potential, right? I'm leaving some money on the table. Like, I have questions like, how many email subscribers do you have? And if they say like 1 million, I should be like emailing them about my agency, but I don't do that right now. So I will do that and report back. It's been on my to-do list for a while. I've also done like some events, like we did a little pop-up event in New York City, And so I have a question like, what city do you live closest to? Send an email to that segment, fill up the event. Like it's and it's really helpful. Like that sounds like a small thing, but like we were worried about filling that event, and that email did it, and we couldn't have done it without that survey. Like there was no other way. And then one final thing that isn't exactly what you said that's been helping me is just segmentation and then custom messaging based off of that segmentation. And not enough people take the time to do this. So when we launched my program, Right Grow Sell, when we launched the cohort in January of this year, the announcement email, I sent basically three different announcement emails. I sent one to the wait list of people who signed up to learn more about it, one to people who have been on my list for over a year, and then I think I sent one to people who were new to my list, so had been signed up for less than 30 days, and then I just sent one to everybody else. And all the emails were the same except for the first line, and each of those emails was different depending on the segment. So if it's like 1 year, it's like, hey, thank you. You've been on my list for a long time. You've been opening and reading my emails. That's why I wanted to let you know about this. Or it's like if it's the wait list, hey, you signed up for the wait list. I want to notify you about this before anybody else. And I sent that email like a couple hours before or whatever. Just customizing like one or two sentences in the beginning makes such a big difference. And those emails had some of the highest engagement, click through rate, and sales that I've ever seen just by taking an extra 20 minutes and doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it can be as simple as just having a custom field for their first name and just using like Beehive has the ability. You can just put like a little personalization merge tag, which says, "Hey, first name," and like that could boost engagement, right? So there's a lot, and of course you can get way more nuanced with it, but yeah, I think just having that data there, it just helps for so many reasons. No matter how you're trying to monetize, no matter what you're going to do with the list, I think it's just an important step that to our discussion, it maybe goes under discussed. But
Yeah, it's everything. And the sponsorships too. Like I don't sell sponsorships in my newsletter any longer, but we were selling some for the event. And then we showed them the data from our email list, survey responders, because we didn't have responses for everybody at the event. And so it's like most event attendees are coming from my email list. So here's what they look like. So it's a must have. Do we have one more thing we should cover?
I have one more. It was just a cool little insight that I saw on LinkedIn. I think maybe we've talked to this person. I can't remember, but Daniel Bustamante. I don't know if you know him, but
Yeah,
I
I know
follow
him.
him on LinkedIn. Okay, cool. I just saw he posted something on LinkedIn that totally resonated. I'll drop the post in here so you can see it. Actually, maybe I'll just share my screen
Got
because
it.
maybe we can. Um, Here we go. I'll just open this up so that we can show it via YouTube to anybody that's watching. So yeah, Daniel Bustamante had this great post, and I think it's stays super. It's so relevant, and I think it's so flexible. This format, which is basically just like the niche expert breakdown, right? So like what the gist of this is for any service that you're operating, like if you have an agency, if you have a consultancy, and you want to be the expert in, let's say, like landing pages or something like that, like you're creating landing pages for folks, a really easy way for you to get started with a newsletter is just by finding examples of landing pages out in the wild that you admire or things that you might fix with them, and just having that be the focus of the newsletter. So each edition is a different example of whatever you build, whatever kind of asset or service you provide. You say what they're doing well. You say what they could fix. I mean, I've seen this across so many newsletters, and every time I think it works well at just providing a ton of value. A meta example is Brad Wolverton's a newsletter, which is newsletter examples, where he just breaks down other newsletters, right? So like getting super meta there. But I think this was just like a great and super flexible format for anybody that's looking to either pivot the format of their newsletter or add something to it, or just do a better job at driving to a service offering. And this is
I love
essentially,
this.
yeah, for agencies, for B2B offers, this is very close to the way that we would think about content strategy in the work that we do. And we see a great deal of success with that. So I think this is just like a really simple framework for people to know about.
So if I'm a, let's say I'm an agency that does Facebook ads for e-commerce businesses, and I focus on ad creative or something. So every newsletter, maybe I break down 3 ad creatives and I explain, okay, what I like about them, what I would do differently, what I don't like about them. That's basically it. That's all
Yeah.
that you need.
And it's so simple. And just by showing people, that you have the eye or the know-how or the expertise that you can lend, or you have strong opinions on what you would fix, and data to back it up, and experience and case studies to back it up. Like, that is such a great vehicle, one, for just providing value in a newsletter or an email, and two, very organically driving people to your service because they're like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. We're facing these same challenges. Our ads don't even look as good as this. It's, and then you're the logical next step is reaching out to you and asking what you might fix with theirs. So yeah, I think it's just like a really fluid framework.
And simple. And
Yes.
simple. It's not super complicated to write one of these if you're just breaking down one ad example or one landing page example. And it should probably be shorter than you think.
Yes.
This is a common mistake people make. It's like, oh, I should do 10 ads in one newsletter. No, just do one. Just do one landing page. That's all you need because you can do a newsletter the next week and the week after that, and you should be doing it every week. This should be a weekly newsletter. So that's called the niche expert newsletter, niche expert breakdown newsletter. Is that what he called it?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, credit to Daniel Bustamante. It's
It's a
the
bit of a
niche
mouthful.
niche expert framework, I think is what he called it. But
Okay.
yeah.
I like it. Yeah. And I've seen some newsletters like this do really well. Brad's newsletter, Chanel's newsletter, Growth in Reverse. These are meta examples where she kind of breaks down how a creator got their first 50,000 email subscribers. Very meta, but this can work for anything. You could be like a relationship therapist,
Hmm.
and every week you break down an example of like an argument a couple had in a movie or a book,
Yeah,
and you like give
exactly.
your thoughts on how they can improve it. Like there's endless examples of this.
Well, it's so funny because that format too, like extending it to that kind of example. Like, you think about those YouTube videos where it's like ex prison inmate watches clips from prison movies and like judges their realism. Like, those go hyper viral because people like hearing. There are, I don't know if every niche or audience is going to be as exciting as that, but that format, I feel like, even on YouTube, goes super viral and gets a lot of views and a lot
Yeah.
of interest. So yeah, it's funny.
And that's a good rule of thumb too. Is like see what's going viral on YouTube and like how can that be a newsletter format
Hmm.
or other platforms. But YouTube is a great way to do it because it's just so huge and so universal. Like if that theme is working on YouTube, it can work in a newsletter too. Given that it's possible, you're not going to write about how you cure blindness for 100 people in your newsletter. That would be better than with a video, right? But there's things that translate there. Cool. Do we have time to cover one more thing? I think I got one more. I know we got like
Absolutely.
15 minutes left, maybe or
Yeah, let's
less.
do it.
That what you brought up made me think of the 9-word email. Have you ever heard of that? I forget who coined this and came up with it.
No.
Yeah, if you Google the 9-word email, you'll see who originally did this, and so I would normally give them credit, but I forget their name. And this is also more focused on selling products and services, right? And it's designed to win back leads that are just dead and that you don't think are going to buy anything, right? So you would probably do your expert breakdown newsletter first, some other marketing stuff. But after you've had this lead for 30, 60, 90 days, whatever, and you haven't gotten anything from them, you can send the 9-word email. And the 9-word email is just like, let's say I am a real estate agent and I have you on my list. I would just say, hey Ryan, are you still interested in buying houses in San Francisco? Question mark. And just sign off best Matt. Like there's no button, there's no call to action. You're just asking a 9-word question essentially. And you will get a surprising amount of yes, I am, or actually no, but in a couple of months I may be. And then you follow up with those people. And so this can be a great way to, one, manually follow up with leads that you haven't heard back from, or two, have this at like the end of an email sequence. So maybe you sent them like 6 marketing emails and they didn't buy in the end. You can just say, hey, are you still interested in learning how to grow your newsletter? Because that's the stuff that I sell, or whatever the stuff you sell is. Um,
Yeah.
and you don't need a button. They reply, and then you follow up. And if you can't take the time to follow up and sell something, come on, man, hire somebody to do it on your team, or just do it yourself.
Yeah. I love this. I love that you brought this up because I've seen this in use for just newsletters too, where it's obviously an automated sequence. But the first few times that I saw it, I think it definitely fooled me, at least, into feeling like it was a personal outreach where somebody says, "Hey, thanks for signing up. Saw you signed up a week ago. How are you liking the newsletter?" or something like that. And I feel like obliged to reply because it's coming from the author of the newsletter, and it feels like someone's just actually shooting me an email. Obviously, I think after enough of those, I was like, okay, this is an automated sequence. But I think that you will get a surprising amount of engagement and replies from an email like that.
Yeah. And you can sell that way too. By the way, the network email is from Dean Jackson. I've heard him talk about this a couple times live, but you can Google that and find him. Yeah. And so the thing is, people are kind of worried, like, oh, I have to follow up. Like, you can train a VA to do that. You can train someone on your team to do that. And this, what you said, is a little bit different than the original Ironward email, but it can still work to lead to a sales conversation. So, what was the question that you were asked, or that the example you just used? Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, and I think they had identified me as maybe a potential, the ICP for their service or whatever they were offering or driving to through the newsletter. But the question was just, how are you liking the newsletter? So obviously, it was to start a conversation that could evolve into something
Yeah.
sales related. But
And a lot of
yeah,
people don't realize that second step, though. You know what I mean? Like, you realize that, but most people listening probably don't. And that is a good way to sell, is just conversational selling. Like, if you look at someone like Dan Martell, if you like follow him on Instagram or Twitter, like, his team is going to DM you and start doing conversational selling in the DMs. And personally, for me, I don't like being sold to that way, but it works really well for a lot of people. And I didn't realize that until very recently.
yeah, and a lot of time, to your point, it is just VAs. It's kind of, which maybe isn't fun when you find that out, or if you figure that out. But yeah, so I've seen that it's worked on me in the past, where somebody who I respect like reaches out to me via DM and is like, "Hey man, how's it going?" And I'm like, "Oh shoot, like okay, like maybe there's some crossover in the kind of
How's it?
work
I
we
hate
do."
the "how's it going" message.
Yeah, I not
I hate
okay.
the message that seems lighthearted. Yeah, when it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
seems like you're trying to be your friend. Like, don't try to be my friend.
yeah. Hey
Just like,
bro.
show me some value, or just sell me.
Yeah. It is funny how informal the sales DMs have gotten on Twitter lately. Like just like, "Hey bro, mind if I create you like a badass landing page?" And I'm like, I don't know. Like maybe it just comes off wrong. I don't
I
know.
can't
But
do that. And I've sent some pretty bad sales DMs and emails, so I can't judge too much.
yeah, just don't put bud, I guess. That would be the no
But
no buds in the sales DMs.
oh man, I used to send some that were so bad. I looked at one the other week because I was just like curious. And the first remark was like, "Greetings."
Hell yeah. The
And
net
I just
being
tried
the
to
throat.
like just sound ridiculous. Yeah, I tried to sound like a ridiculous British guy and just try and get attention. And that did work a couple of times, but it's being myself worked a little bit more. But what I was gonna say is that so I'll just have my team, like, people reply, or we have like a reply sequence. I'll just have my team send them resources, because I feel like, for me, I don't want to do conversational selling. I think it's kind of icky. But if I can send them like, hey, here's some like YouTube videos I think you would like, hey, here's our podcast, they probably wouldn't have come across that anyways. And because it's being recommended by my email, it they're way more likely to actually go and watch the YouTube video or watch the podcast, you know, become nurtured, and then hopefully work with me later.
Yeah, I was there's this guy who I was uh working with or in a community with for a while, and he was super successful at like kind of like cold-ish selling, right? Like but his entire like warm-up sequence was he had just created so many lead magnets and would just hit them with free resources in like a conversational-ish style. And that was really successful for him. So yeah, just like it would be a sequence that would follow up and say, "Hey, thought you might like this," or "Hey, I just built this. Check this out." And of course, you have to put the work in to build the lead magnets, right? But that's just a library that you build over time too. So
Well, that's how I think about my newsletter. Is like, I'm writing something that could be a lead magnet every single week, and I'm going to publish that and send it to my full list. But later on, I can gate that behind an email address, submit form, or something. And so every newsletter for me is something that could be a lead magnet, or can be as valuable as a lead magnet.
that's I think that's a really important point. Like so I think when you're thinking about content for your newsletter, And people have different approaches, and it's not to say it's the only way, but when we're creating content for folks that we work with, for example, one of the things that we think about is like, could this be used as a sales asset down the road for them too, right? So it's not just going out to their list now, but it's something that they could pull from. And ideally, it's answering a question that maybe comes up on a sales call or comes up on a consulting call. And it always looks super impressive when somebody asks you a question and you're like, oh, I actually wrote an entire piece about just this in detail. Here's the link to that. And so, yeah, that's a great way to think about how you craft content for the newsletter as well.
Yeah, this is the newsletter flywheel because for me and for a lot of people, it goes even beyond that. So every newsletter can become a lead magnet. Every newsletter becomes 2 to 5 social posts that can bring in new subscribers and leads. Every newsletter can train my team. Every newsletter can be the foundation for a course module that I later create and I sell, and a sales assets and things like that. Also, every newsletter can later become an email that I put in my welcome sequence to guide new subscribers through the journey of what they need to do to be successful. And the list goes on. And so that's the power of the newsletter flywheel is it goes way beyond that one newsletter that you're sending if you do it right.
Yeah, you're investing in that content and making it great up front, not just for the list, but because you're going to be able to use it across and break it up and distribute it across all these different channels. So
Yeah, for the long run. I think a lot of people who write kind of evergreen weekly newsletters, in 1 or 2 years, they're pretty close to having a book, especially if they think about it that way. And that could become, a nice short book that they do some editing on, and now they have another resource too. That's cool. Is this a good place to wrap it up, or anything else we should cover?
no, I mean, I think we've got a lot to discuss next time too. But yeah, I think we're good for now.
Yeah, this is great. All right, check out the event, check out Ryan's stuff, Tailwind, check out Grow Letter in the links below, and we'll talk to you all next time.